Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is your Saturday injury report. I will talk just a little bit about the Kansas City-Detroit game, some observations from that game since that was the first game of the season, and I think there's a lot to talk about in that game, so I'll give a couple of quick thoughts on some of the players and the results, and then I'll go through the injury report as hopefully relatively quickly as possible. So this isn't really meant to be some sort of fun video. It's just to get you up to date on all of the injury reports and some of my thoughts on if that player doesn't play or does play, what kind of impact does that have on other players, basically. So, Thursday night game, Kansas City versus Detroit, in a game that I felt was it's a pretty sloppy game overall. That was not the high-scoring affair that I expected. It was much more of a duke 'em out kind of game. And a lot of that was self-imposed from wide receivers of both teams dropping balls. Most notably, of course, Kadarius Toney. But he was on the field for 16 snaps. He had 5 targets, so that's about a 30% target share while he was on the field. So to me, that was promising. Like I actually left this game maybe feeling a little bit better on Kadarius Toney, who was not high on all offseason, than I did coming into the game. I thought, given the fact that he hasn't been with the team and was recovering from injury, the 16 snaps was kind of like, I think, best case scenario I would have thought for coming into this game for him. The performance was not best case scenario, but drops have not been a long-term issue for him. Looking for better days for him. Still, the thing about these wide receivers is this game played out like I expected these wide receivers to be utilized. They basically platooned in and out. The only piece that really you can rely on to be in there all the time is MVS, but he's more used as a little bit of a distraction and can make a big play here or there, but very hard to predict. So that's why I didn't really like any of these wide receivers a whole lot. That includes Sky Moore, so I wasn't high on him all offseason, haven't been high on him since the draft process when he came into the league, and nothing, if you want to drop him, I'm in support of that. I don't have a lot of faith, and I do think that Rashee Rice is a guy who looked a little bit better this game already as a rookie, who could take that kind of role for this team. I like him a lot, and so he would be my guy to stash if anybody from the wide receiver core for this team. Then when you look at the running back, CH, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, I warned you about Jerick McKinnon. As far as Isaiah Pacheco, CH goes, CH was actually more efficient on the ground, 3.7 yards per carry compared to 2.2 yards per carry. And to me, it seemed like, although the end results didn't end up in favor of a 50-50 split, it felt like kind of a 50-50 split. CH came in on basically every other drive compared to Pacheco. It just so happened, and not because of any fault of CH's, that CH was in on drives that were like 3 and outs, and then the next drive Pacheco would come in, and he was part of more drives that had a little bit of longevity to them. Yeah, I think that would concern me for Pacheco owners for where I was drafting him, but not overly concerned. Week 1, this was a weird week for both of these teams. I don't want to take too much away from this. When we look at the Detroit Lions wide receivers, Josh Reynolds versus Marvin Mims, there's a reason that Josh Reynolds was the name that people brought up, including me, that if there's anybody, especially for these first 6 weeks, that you might want to take a shot on in situations of an emergency or in a matchup like this where we're expecting it to be a bit of a high-flying matchup, Josh Reynolds is not a bad option. He's been very good for the Detroit Lions while he's been healthy. Just hasn't totally stayed healthy and hasn't lit up the scoreboard so much that everybody's kind of noticed how good he's been for them. Then when you look at the running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs versus David Montgomery, first of all, eye test, Jahmyr Gibbs, much better overall running back. There are obviously, they seem to have some issues with him maybe on third downs for blocking for the quarterback because he didn't really make it out on third down situations over David Montgomery from what I noticed, from what I heard. That's something that the rookie will get better at, and that'll help him to get out there a little bit more. But I do want to make a mention here. At the end of the day, David Montgomery ran the ball 3 times to 1 for Jahmyr Gibbs and ran routes at a rate of 2 to 1 compared to Jahmyr Gibbs. As far as the rushing attempts go, the final 2 drives really altered that while they were basically just running out the clock on the Kansas City Chiefs. David Montgomery ran the ball 6 to 1. If you were to remove those 7 rushes between the two of them from the rest of the game, it was actually just at a 1.5 to 1 ratio that David Montgomery was running ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. And also, Dan Campbell promised today that there will be an increased role for Jahmyr Gibbs, that's coming. I don't expect that to just pop up next week. All of a sudden it's a 50-50 affair, 100% or anything like that. Should be a little bit gradual, but Jahmyr Gibbs looked good, and he should have had a touchdown had he not tripped over his own feet or tripped on the turf, whatever happened exactly there. So it's a much better game than what the box score shows for Jahmyr Gibbs, and that role is just only going to increase. And David Montgomery didn't look great, but David Montgomery's still going to have his role no matter what. It's that plotter for them. Last up, Sam Laporta went 5 for 5 for 39 yards. Thought it was a promising start for him. Wasn't everything that I had hoped, but promising. Let's get on to the injury report, and we'll get past like the must-start kind of guys. There we go. Starting off with the Arizona Cardinals, we have Joshua Dobbs is expected to be the starter at quarterback. I don't know if that's good or bad necessarily. I guess it gives you just a little bit more faith for those guys than the rookie starting in Clayton Tune. Zach Ertz was limited all week with his knee. He is questionable. Marquise Brown was limited all week with his hamstring. He is questionable. I mean, that's not great. That lowers the faith in Marquise Brown. Let's move on to Atlanta. Cordero Patterson had a thigh pop up. I think that was just today on Friday. He is questionable. If he happens to miss the game, just really because of this news, actually, in general, I did give a bump up to Bijan Robinson. That's about the only impact that has for fantasy for me. Don't think you were playing it. Starting CPAT, I'd imagine that they'll feel comfortable putting CPAT, keeping him on the sidelines in case of an emergency kind of back. Just take it easy on him, a little bit older of a guy, if he is suiting up for the game. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews has been limited all week with that same injury that he came into draft season here with, his quad injury. We didn't know what it was at that point in time. And he is questionable. He said on Thursday, quote unquote, God willing, that he'll be able to play on Sunday. So that's not like, I think it's like a 60-40 he will start kind of situation. It's more likely that he will than not. I think I would go like 80-20 if it wasn't for that God willing statement for him. So a little bit nervous about it if he doesn't play. Isaiah Likely is interesting. I think I would probably slide him into my tight end 15 spot. That would be like right behind Gerald Everett. Had OBJ been ruled out, I would be higher on Isaiah Likely, but I'm not really expecting that this offense will be passing. I think of all the games this season, this could be the least passes thrown this week for the Baltimore Ravens. So just not overly excited about getting him into my lineup if there's some better options on the waiver wire. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, Adam Thielen had an ankle injury that has limited him since Wednesday. He did not participate on Thursday. And as far as this note is not clear about today, but yeah, he's questionable. He was listed as officially questionable for this weekend, and G.J. Shark has officially been declared out with a hamstring injury. I'm not trying to start anyone on this offense aside from Miles Sanders myself this week. Just a heads up on that. Then Jerry Jeudy for Denver Broncos limited all week with a hamstring. He is questionable. I have ranked him like he'll be playing now. I actually had him out of it. But, yeah, it seems to be on the path to play. So assuming that we don't get news that he is being like majorly limited this week, I have Cortland Sutton ranked 31st, Jerry Jeudy ranked 35th, and Marvin Mims ranked 38th. I am going under the assumption that Jerry Jeudy will be limited at least a little bit in this game. I may move Marvin Mims back a little bit further, but I want to see if we don't get a little bit more news maybe Sunday morning about where the health of Jerry Jeudy is. It's been hard to figure that one out. And then moving on to the Green Bay Packers, starting off with Romeo Doubs, pair of wide receivers, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, both had hamstring injuries. Romeo Doubs had his happened longer ago, and they've really just been managing that. So he has been limited all week with that. He is questionable going into the weekend. Do think that he will probably be playing, but we will see. And then Christian Watson was declared out. He had his injury pop up on Wednesday, and then he did not participate on Thursday and once again on Friday, and that is a week-to-week thing for him, so that sucks. My confidence level, because of Christian Watson being out for wide receiver Jaden Reed and tight end Luke Musgrave, goes up a little bit. I didn't move Musgrave up in my rankings at all, and Romeo Doubs himself concerns me a little bit. He could tweak his hamstring in the game, he could be limited via his snaps, or just his ability to play at full speed. So I have Romeo Doubs, Van Jefferson, Jaden Reed ranked 49th through 51st in that order. I am a little bit concerned about the offense of Green Bay as a whole now this week. I think that they could try to rely on the run all the more. So actually here you can see I did move Aaron Jones up a little bit. Well, I mean, you might not remember where I had him, but I ended up moving Aaron Jones up a little bit, I believe. And then same with A.J. Dillon, just a little ways there to running back 33. Let's get the tight ends up there now on the side. Moving on to the Houston Texans, John Mechie had a hamstring injury, did not participate all week. He has been declared out. Indianapolis Colts, Zach Moss returned to practice. He's been limited with his broken arm healing from that all week, and he is considered to be questionable. I think he's probably going to be playing. I'm not high on Deion Jackson anyways, but if you were planning on playing Deion Jackson in the event that Zach Moss wasn't playing and you still have him in your lineup and he does play, I would see if there isn't somebody else that you might be able to trust, just not too high up on that running back spot this week. And then we have the Los Angeles Rams. Cooper Kupp was ruled out and could possibly be going on IR. Very possible, it sounds like. And as far as the Rams wide receivers, I'm not trying to be playing any of them this week. You saw where I had Van Jefferson ranked, though. And it is Cam Akers and Tyler Higbee. That's really it as far as guys I want to be potentially relying upon. The New England Patriots' Devontae Parker was limited all week with a knee. He's questionable. Ramondre Stevenson on Friday had an illness that caused him to miss practice, but he is expected to be playing. He is, however, officially questionable. And so with that, there is a chance that I will be out 3 of my top 4 picks this weekend, possible, between Ramondre Stevenson, Cooper Kupp, and Mark Andrews. That would be wonderful if they all missed. In the event that Ramondre Stevenson doesn't play, I'm putting Zeke somewhere in my mid RB3 range. I don't get too jacked on him. He's not really, if you're thinking about playing him in the flex spot, especially in a 2 wide receiver league, like he's not in that discussion for me. There's a lot of wide receivers that I would probably be playing over him. Visit me on Sunday morning if that becomes something that you need a little bit more guidance on. Then the New Orleans Saints, Kendre Miller did not participate due to a hamstring on Thursday and Friday, so that was a new one. He is listed as questionable. I don't know about that. His absence does not really move the needle, however, for me on Jamal Williams. I don't know if he'll be playing. I kind of doubt he will. But I would probably move Jamal Williams up in my rankings from where I had him, like 1 spot ahead of Cam Akers, in the event that Kendre Miller doesn't play. Then the New York Giants wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson was limited, I believe, all week due to his knee, just still coming back from that, and he is doubtful to play on Sunday. Darren Waller, with his hamstring that just popped up today on Friday, is now questionable. Luckily, it seems that hamstring wasn't due to some single incident that happened. It's just been a general tightness that popped up on him. So there should be some solid options on your waiver wire to replace him in the event that you need to. However, things are looking slightly positive at least, but it is Darren Waller and a hamstring, so that's not great. And Daniel Bellinger is not going to be skyrocketing up my list in the event that Darren Waller gets ruled out. Let's get the wide receivers up here. We'll go right there to wide receiver 15 through 40. Starting off with the New York Jets, we have Breece Hall was limited in practice Thursday, Friday, all week. I believe I just looked at that. I think it's all week. No, this is all week because they have the Monday game. So he has been limited in practice. This is something that we can expect. I'm not worried about him missing week 1. There have been no setbacks that we know about or anything like that. On to the San Francisco 49ers. Joey Bosa the other day just signed a huge extension, so he will now be there for this defense this week. So that's not helpful for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which it would have been nice if he wasn't there for them and their playmakers. But something to keep in mind, he's back. And George Kittle was limited all week due to a groin injury. He is questionable. There is no backup tight end in San Francisco that I would be playing in the event that he does not play. It's something to keep an eye on, something we've known about for a while now. It keeps bugging him. Not great. Then Seattle, and I really don't know. Yeah, I know he's listed as questionable. I don't know how to rate that. I guess he probably played because he's a tight end, and that's what they do. Then last up, we have Seattle. This is actually not last up. A couple of good kind of pieces of news here. Ken Walker was limited on Thursday due to a groin injury. Same with on Friday. He was once again limited. However, he is expected to be playing. That is not expected to be a big injury issue. I do not have an official status on him. This is the one team I was waiting for to film But I went and I looked at some of the local beat reporters, and this is what they were saying, is that he was limited today, and he is expected to be playing. If, however, he does miss the game, Zach Charbonnet will be shooting right up in my rankings, being a high-end RB2 for me. So come visit me Sunday morning and find out exactly where he's at in that event, or even in not that event. Come on and visit me. The last one we got, Washington, and I just wanted to include this because there has been a lot of talk about it since it did happen right before drafting and everything. Terry McLaurin is good to go. I am still slightly hesitant on him. He is going to be lower in my rankings than he would have been had he not injured his toe. He's a decent wide receiver 3. You can see it over here. So right now I have him ahead of Cooks, Cortland Sutton, behind Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, just kind of sitting right in that area. Thank you very, very much. Good luck with your fantasy week this week. Bye-bye.